there, and welcome to episode 3 of Miracle Mile. In this episode, we are going to actually begin work on the mall itself, and there's quite a few things that I want to talk about. But first, I have some announcements, starting with what you're looking on the screen right now. You probably notice how some of the textures from the edges of the road kind of like vanish and reveal this like little pebble, like stone little textures there. So what ended up happening is I wasn't too happy with the look and feel of the rune texture, given this combination of LUT and time of the day and just base theme in general. So I used the theme mixer to replace the base textures with another one. In this case, I'm using the Rainhold map theme, which I should probably mention is not a theme that's public. You can't just go to the workshop and download it. This map theme is made by Hadiz, and she has put out some really awesome assets out in the workshop that are indeed public. However, this one, you need to go to her Patreon page and just send her a small donation to unlock it. In case you need proof of her talent, she has made, and this is public, you can actually check it out. She has made, in my opinion, by far the best winter theme that's out in the workshop. It's called Vatcherten Frost. Oh man, I'm probably totally butchering this name, but I'm going to include links to all of this in the description, so you can go check out her work. And if you really like what you see, then you can contribute to her Patreon. And by the way, I haven't, this is not like paid sponsorship or anything like that. I haven't even talked to her. She was kind enough to add me to Steam, and I was just playing around with some of her assets, and they're really, really good. I hope that I can use the Rainhold theme much more prominently than just like a few textures here and there in the future. But for now, this has been amazing. Once I tried that, I was like, yes, this looks epic. So awesome. I do have a few more shout outs that I want to give just at the beginning of the episode, because these people really deserve it. The second person I want to give a shout out to is King Leno, which I already mentioned on episode 1. But in this episode, all the malls that you just saw me plop down there temporarily, this is all temporarily, by the way, he's created these versions of the abandoned malls as per my request. So these should be already public in the workshop by the time this episode came out, if we manage to get the timing right. So please make sure to go to the description of this video and look for the links there. You can try them yourself in your own cities if you do so desire. So huge thanks to King Leno. And finally, I do want to give a very special shout out to Jack Patillo, who's been a huge supporter of my channel for quite some time. And he's been super vocal about recommending basically everyone on my channel. So Jack, if you're watching this, I want to take this opportunity to like verbally thank you. He just became one of my biggest patrons right now, and that's also kind of amazing. But I've seen him like wear the Strictoser shirt on some of the podcasts that he does, and if you haven't seen his stuff, I'm gonna include a few links in the description so you can check out his channel. He does Twitch a lot as well, and he's probably most known for his commentary on Achievement Hunter and Rooster Teeth. So yeah, I'm gonna include a few highlights of his in the description so you can go check him out. He's really funny. So again, Jack, thank you so much. And yeah, I think it's finally time to talk about what's happening on the screen. So, like I said in the beginning of the episode, we're mostly going to be focusing on building the mall. Now, we're at a part of this series where, the things that we're going to need to build from now on are going to be pretty big in scope. So unlike the first 2 episodes where I pretty much finished in detail whole areas of the map, this episode is just going to be just setting up the edges of this build. They won't be necessarily fully detailed. It's just getting mostly the parking lots and the base structure of the mall right, and obviously all these road access that you see on the screen right now. So this little avenue that sort of goes up into town, you can see it on the screen right now. It's there was a lot of trial and error there. I wasn't very happy with it, so I ended up cutting a huge part of this at the end, of removing sections of that. But the only reason why you're looking at this right now is because this actually stays. This little left turning lane pretty much remains, because I wanted the mall to have multiple accesses in and out of the mall, so that traffic could potentially flow much more nicely. This, mind you, is the whole point of this is when the mall was like in full swing, they were expecting a lot of shoppers to come from like different areas of this region in general, not necessarily the town up the hill. So, you know, this being such a big mall, and by the way, just to give you an idea of the footprint of this, and you're gonna see this in the cinematics at the end, but like it's huge, just the size of the town, like the whole area with the parking lots you're gonna see me add in just a second. It's really, really big. So I wanted to have some sort of realistic size access points into this area that could accommodate a huge volume of cars. Now, switching gears for a moment and talking about the parking lot roads here. As I was testing, or as I was recording this episode, mind you, I've been testing these parking lot roads for pretty much ever since they came out, and I loved them. I think they're really like one of the best assets that recently hit the workshop, at least in 2018. But these roads, as I was working on this huge parking lot, I realized some limitations of this configuration. And that is clear probably on the top right corner of the screen, where you can see the different textures or the different shades of color based on the different widths of these roads. Which, you know, at first I was like, okay, this is going to look like a rainbow. It might not be the best, so I might have to like tweak the roads so that just the roads around it, so that I could always use the same width. Except as you start getting closer to the edges, you realize just right here that you can't quite accommodate a wider road, and there is still quite a bit of room for parking. So having the options were, okay, you know, keep wide gaps just because I can fit thinner roads because of the different texture colors, or just use a whole bunch of thinner roads that would fit, but you know, you'll have a lot of like roads in between, which also doesn't look super realistic. Parking lots, if you've seen, you know, any parking lot of this magnitude on Google Maps, you'll clearly see that they have wider areas and just like huge pools of parking spaces without any roads kind of messing in the middle. So I was aiming for that, and obviously you can only get that with the wider parking lot roads. In fact, I wish there was an even wider one, but this is already good enough. I'm not complaining or anything. In any case, the point here is like, okay, how do I deal with this difference of textures? Because they do quite vary quite a bit. They are very different. And as I was just putting down stuff, and I tend to do this, by the way, and I recommend you to sometimes when things don't quite look right, instead of just like immediately ditching, sometimes it's worth, you know, going a little bit further and keep adding a few more things, because maybe in the grand scale of things do start looking like they make sense. And in this case, that was the case. As I was adding more of these parking lot roads, there was a pattern started showing up, which is the fact that I can keep these things in clusters of sort of the same colors, and they actually look realistic. In fact, I've been also combining okay, let me make a quick comment here. These parking lot roads do come in two versions. The kind of like destroyed kind of version, which is the one you're looking on the screen right now. It's like lighter, like less saturated, and it just has like a broken, like cracks and things texture to it. And what I ended up doing is just setting random patches of more maintained pavement and just more broken pavement all throughout the perimeter of the mall. And that really adds a lot of detail. In fact, one thing I highly recommend you try, and this sometimes takes a little bit more time. Let me actually give you an example. So what I try to do for the most part is for the roads themselves to actually add a lot of detail. For a while, I was playing this game from the standpoint of just simply grab network skins, strip everything out of these roads, like remove like fire hydrants, remove the parking meters, remove just everything. Just give me the most plain road you can give me. and then I'll go in and add props. And that's great. That gives you a lot of flexibility. You can do whatever you want. However, if you do that, you end up spending a lot of time adding props, which, it's fine. It's like there's no rush here. But I realized that spending a few seconds and getting like network skins to render like the right trees at the right spacing when you do like a road with trees on the side, for example, actually yields amazing results, and that doesn't have a big of an impact in your cities, especially if you're the kind of player like myself who adds a lot of trees and a lot of props. So it is worth. I realized that at this episode, by the way. I've been playing this game for almost 3 years, and this is now I'm starting to really realize that this might have been obvious to you before, but I think it's worth spending the time to tweak those mods instead of just like stripping everything away, which is significantly faster and easier. But as you add more props and decals, it really does make it a little bit harder and maybe not as worth it as much. That's what I'm trying to say. In any case, what I'm doing here is working on the interchange that's the closest to the town, which can handle traffic on 3 of the 4 possible directions. And I made that on purpose because the town is pretty small, and the way I was thinking about this is like more people are going to try to come in and out from the neighboring cities and the region from the freeway that that little interchange we built on episode 1. So it's really not that necessary to have a road that connects back to town or from town into the mall as much as all the other directions do. So just decided to keep a 3-way interchange here. I might change it in the future. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it 100% like this. And obviously this is not detail whatsoever. So the only few details I'm adding here is just adding these concrete network roads, which are absolutely amazing. I already talked about them extensively in previous episodes, but man, these are really, really good. Now, as we enter the last stretch of this video, we're going to be doing some really rough detail work around the main building. In fact, we're going to be doing a lot of movement of buildings for the most part, and just some really basic stuff you'll see in a minute. But I do want to point out, and I kind of mentioned this at the beginning of the episode, that none of this is really final. At this point, we're just getting sort of the draft version of the mall in place. And as I add more details to it in the future, we're going to start moving things around to sort of accommodate all these new additions. I'm always see on the screen right now, I'm extending the parking lot a bit more, but this is where I start putting down some of the basic buildings that I'm going to be using. And in fact, there's a new mod that came out that makes buildings abandoned, like on demand, basically. So I haven't tried that yet. I'm sure that many of you will be commenting that on the comments below, but I am aware of that. I haven't tried it yet, but I will. Hopefully it's as good as I think it will be. If not, we'll figure something else out. But one little thing I do want to point out is I'm going to be using this pedestrian road in just a second to sort of add texture to the sidewalks around the mall. And I'm going to I have used this before in other videos. However, you haven't seen that video yet, because that video I think is going to come out the same week this video comes out, which is episode 3 of FPS. And I'm going to use it for a totally different reason than this, so you should go watch that if you're interested in using other roads as textures to detail. I think that's a really cool technique. In any case, this is pretty much the end of the episode. I'm going to let you enjoy some cinematics in a few seconds. Not before I ask you to give this video a like if you enjoyed, and if you're new to the channel and haven't already, maybe I can persuade you to subscribe. That way you're notified next time I post a video. Also, for those of you who don't know, I have a Patreon campaign going. So if you want to see my videos before they come out and you want to have your name listed in the credits, go check it out. There's links in the description that you can follow. But that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and hope to see you in the next one.